Good morning again. Today I want to talk to you about the rainbow diet. And you may feel you know all about the rainbow diet, a lot of people do, but I really wanted to recap some of it. And the reason is I wrote it all something like 19 years ago. In 2005, 2006, the Rainbow Diet book came out. I've got it registered with the um, British Library, but there's copies of the Rainbow Diet in places like America. Um, and frankly, those copies got nothing to do with the Rainbow Diet. They really don't. They think that, it's just about throwing a few handsful of colourful vegetables or fruits into a blender, and that's not a Rainbow Diet at all. That's not what I meant. I got asked back in 2004 5 when I came off stage. I've been talking, doing the speeches about Catherine and so on, that what sort of diet should I have? And I've always been interested in the Mediterranean diet because I've got a house. I've had a house for 35 years on the Mediterranean. And secondly, I learnt my French just south of Toulouse in D'Artagnan country. And the Gascons are the epitome of the French paradox. They drink more wine and eat more fatty food than anybody else in France and have even less cancer and even less heart disease. And so literally back in 1985, I was thinking, why is this true? And it was quite clear why it was true. And so I really want to run you through the rainbow diet today to make sure you're on the right rainbow diet and you're getting the most benefit out of it. Because, we have research showing that people who eat the rainbow diet, if they've got cancer, for example, survive longer. And we've got research on all sorts of cancers, and we've got research on health, on cardiovascular disease and dementia and things like this, on how my rainbow diet, which is really the colourful Mediterranean diet, reduces the risk of those diseases. And frankly, throwing a few handfuls of colourful fruits into a blender is not going to do that. So let's talk about this. The most important thing to understand is the colourful Mediterranean diet has actually been voted as the best diet in the world for about the last 7 years by US Today magazine. And they've also voted it as the best vegetarian, plant-based diet in the world. So you can have a bit of meat. You're not going to be completely vegetarian. So it's been voted in those two categories as the best for 7 years. And I'm going to say that yes, I've watched programs on the Blue Zone in Sardinia, which is the place in the world that's got more 80, 90 and 100-year-olds than anywhere else. And I've lived there. So I want to actually try and help you understand what the rainbow diet is. All right, the colourful Mediterranean diet. And the first thing I would say is it's a lifestyle. Much more than anything else, it's a lifestyle. And this is why it fits with what I do, because you'll hear me say to people who've got cancer, you've built a body conducive to cancer over a 6 to 10 year period, sometimes longer. Well, I'm going to build you a body conducive to health. So I'm not actually treating cancer. I'm actually generating a new healthy body through a new lifestyle. That's what I'm trying to do. And what's in this lifestyle? Well, again, people don't understand the implications. So the first thing is it's outdoors. So I know that's hard to do in the north of Germany and Scotland and places like this, to live out of doors, but it's outdoors. And that means they spend quite a lot of their time outdoors. And this gives them vitamin D from the sunshine. Yes, of course it does. But from sunlight, even on the darkest day, that infrared end of sunlight is coming crashing through the clouds, crashing through the awning they're sitting under having their lunch, and through into their body, and it's making melatonin in their body during the day. And this melatonin cleans up their cells. It actually gets rid of those free radicals and reactive oxygen species. So it's actually cleaning them up. So living out of doors is good. And of course, you get fresh air. And if you live anywhere near the sea, you get even fresher air. So, living out of doors is actually a major plus if you can do it. Number two, exercise. Okay, now, yes, I go to the gym, but we're not talking about that sort of exercise. Basically, I do exercise every day of my life. So I go to the gym, or I ride my bike, or I walk around a golf course and so on. And if you look at the people in the Mediterranean, they're always on the move. This is the exercise we're talking about. And so it's not just exercise where you're, out of breath and you're actually making endorphins and they're neutralizing your nasty hormones, your cortisol and so on. It's not really just that. It's actually being on the move. And one of the worst things you can do is sit still for more than about 45 minutes, because that sort of gums the whole body up. And we have work on frequencies, natural frequencies. It's all been done by NASA on, if you're actually moving, your body has a frequency of about 7 and a bit. And if you're sitting still, it's at 4.6, I think. And you're not healthy unless your frequency of your body is north of about 5.4. So we've got all this. I may have got those figures slightly wrong, but the principle is right. So you need to be moving. Don't sit down for more than an hour at any time. Get up and move about. My doctor, I went to see him about a torn rotator cuff, and he's completely redone his office. So he's got like a bar round 3 sides and a wall, and he greets you standing up over his bar, and you talk to him, and he's sitting on a stool, but perching on a stool, and then he walks across the other side of his bar to feed everything into the computer. And I said to him, "You've read the research, have you?" And he said, "Yes." And this is what it's about, movement. He doesn't want to sit still. The third thing that's really important is a sense of community. Now, this is a huge thing, a huge factor that's strong in the Mediterranean. Yes, you could possibly say it's Catholicism. So yes, it could be. But this a sense of community is very, very strong. So there was one BBC short film on a lady. She was 101 that day, and she was talking about, they said, "What's the secret of your success?" And so she said, "Well, every day I walk down the hill and I go to see my friends for lunch." And they showed them, there were 10 people outside, all round a table. None of them had walking sticks. None of them had glasses. They're all in their 90s. And they're all sitting under an awning, which keeps the sun off them, but lets them make melatonin. So there's sort of sense of community. They're all laughing together and so on. And families are terribly important. So, she was 101 that day and the whole family was there. There was goodness knows how many of them. So this is a major part of it, because there's a love, a kind of strong bond between all the people, in that village, in that town. And the sense of community extends to all of them respecting each other. And this is hard to explain, but as people get older in this environment, they get more respect. People don't sort of sit them in the corner and think, "Oh, he's, getting dementia." They get more respect as they get older. So sense of community is really important. And, it's something like 28% of people in Britain live on their own. So this is a major difference. The next thing is enjoyment. Enjoyment. Now, I know you can't just create enjoyment. I understand that. But there is an enjoyment factor. There's an enjoyment factor in each other's company. They literally go and have lunch together and have a laugh. And, this is quite important. When you're having a meal, I mean, all these words we have, like quick, fast food and, eating food, meals and food, and we don't think of the word nourishment. And what you're actually doing when you're having a meal is you're nourishing your body and, dare I say it, your soul, your brain, because you surround yourself with your friends. And if you're going to have a 4-hour meal, or you're going to have a big meal, get your friends in. I mean, if I have a birthday in the south of France, I do have my birthday in the south of France actually every year. And, we've got like 20 of us there. It's not a couple of us, it's 20 of us. And we're all sitting around the table, eating, drinking, and having a laugh. But the most important thing is we're enjoying our food. How can you enjoy throwing 10 different berries or whatever in a blender and go, and I'm drinking a rainbow diet. It's rubbish, right? This is about enjoyment of your company and your friends and your family, and enjoyment of your food and being nourished by the company and by the food. The next thing is to sleep properly. Now, how many patients do I get who just don't sleep very well? Well, part of it is they're not moving about all day. They're not getting the exercise. Part of it is they've lost their gut microbiome. We'll come to this. But part of it is they don't sleep in the right environment. So the rooms are full of televisions and Wi-Fi and the computers there and all this sort of stuff. Whereas, again, you go back to the south of France and everybody has a shutter on the windows. Everybody has a shutter on the doors. It's called a volet. What's a volet? Actually, it's to keep the voleur out, the thieves. That's what it goes back 400 years. It's protection, but it's actually very dark in the rooms and it's really good and you sleep better. So sleep is really important because sleep nourishes you. That's what it's all about. And sleep is healing. That's the whole point, because melatonin you make when you sleep actually is a huge antioxidant. It's very, very anti-inflammatory. So it's nourishment, it's healing again. And the final thing I would say about the lifestyle is learn to be calm. Now, we can't do this in the West anymore, but to actually see someone in France, for example, on their own with a small espresso and maybe reading the paper, or going to Greece and seeing men playing checkers and they've got worry beads. They know how to be calm. They are quite prepared to take an hour off in their day and calm down. In Japan, I always reminded there's something called Shirin-yoku. And what happened was in Tokyo, lots of big bosses were very worried that all their workers were actually getting stressed out in concrete buildings in Tokyo, which is a concrete city. And so they started bussing them out once a week, so Friday lunchtimes or whatever it was, and they take them out to the forest. And they had professional people who would slowly walk with these people through the forest, touching the leaves and looking at the trees and so on and discussing them, because actually the trees and the leaves and everything else give off a chemical which lowers your cortisol. Fact. So that's Shirin-yoku. So, you know, they realize that actually being calm is an important part of your lifestyle. How many people in the West do? So they're the important things. Then we come on to diet. As I keep saying, the most important thing about your diet is it nourishes you. And in order to nourish you, it needs to nourish your microbiome. Because if you nourish these guys, the good guys, they make anti-inflammatory molecules and they calm your whole body down. They get rid of your inflammation. So that's what we're trying to do. So the first thing is you need to look at what's called soluble fiber, because soluble fiber, which is oats, grains, whole grains, it's pulses, it's vegetables, it's nuts and seeds. Whole grains and nuts and seeds, whatever, are soluble fiber. And soluble fiber is the favorite food of your good bacteria. It makes a gel inside the gut, and this is what they eat, and that will put their numbers up, and that will put up your anti-inflammatory molecules. So this is what happens. Secondly, you need to eat good unsaturated oils. As you know, I'm not a great fan of coconut oil. We want good unsaturated oils. Coconut oils saturated. And if you look at the Mediterranean, they are eating extra virgin olive oil, and of course most of them make it. I can find a local man making it, giving you first pressed olive oil. And secondly, it's fish oils and oily fish. And yes, you can eat avocados and nuts and seeds. Walnuts have got wonderful oil in them and so on. So that's where you are. So then it's switch from meat to fish. So I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. My attitude to it all is you want to try and eat seafood at least 3-4 times a week, and you want to eat lean, organic, skinless chicken maybe a couple of times a week. And maybe even that's a bit too much. I have vegetarian days, but that's the sort of balance you want. I don't eat red meat. The Mediterranean people don't really eat red meat. They might go and get themselves a large steak from a grass-fed cow, but it's been outside all year and it makes conjugated linoleic acid in its rumen, and there's about 30 conjugated linoleic acids, but this one is very anti-cancerous. So they might do that. But that's basically switch from meat to fish would be a good answer. So that, you know, they have fish stews, bouillabaisse and things like this. Then I would say eat more polyphenols. Polyphenols, yes, are the color. And we've got an article on polyphenols. I'll do something separately on polyphenols sometime. But someone's calculated there's 506 polyphenols in the Mediterranean diet. I thought it was 7 myself. Polyphenols are not just in colorful vegetables and colorful fruits. They're actually, there's a lot, but obviously don't get lots of volume from them, in herbs. Herbs are a big plus in the Mediterranean because they give you polyphenols. And polyphenols, the rainbow diet is written around this. Polyphenols don't just protect you from things like cancer and heart disease, they can correct you. And I got told off by a number of oncologists at the start because I was saying that food could correct you from cancer. Yes, and what's so surprising about that? And this is what polyphenols do. So I talked about it a lot at the start. Next, I think you should all think seriously about eating some raw cheese. Okay, now I know a lot of people go and consume kefir or sauerkraut or take probiotics. There's a big, big difference. If you eat some raw goat's cheese, goats have lived with people of the Mediterranean for thousands of years, and so the microbiomes are not that different. And mummy goat gives baby goat in its milk trillions of lactobacillus and trillions of bifidobacteria. So you add those two together, and this is what baby's getting. 98% of its microbiome after about 2 months are those two families, lactic acid bacteria that creates acidity. And you're just not going to get that from a probiotic. Don't even kid yourself. A probiotic's like 4 lactobacillus and 4 bifidobacteria, and it can help. It can, there's no getting away from it. It can help. So it can, you know, apple cider vinegar, which is acetobacter, and sauerkraut is even other different things. But the core of what you need is trillions of lactobacillus and trillions of bifidobacteria. And I watched one guy on a film. He got up in the morning, you know, from all his shuttered little house, and he took his goats up the hill, and he walked his goats up the hill at about 8 o'clock in the morning and put them in the field. And then he came back to his house about 9:30. It's called time restricted fasting in America, I think. So he came back to his house and he literally plastered his big piece of bread, whole wheat bread. He plastered it with raw goat's cheese and put tomatoes and olives and what have you around it. And that's what he had for breakfast. And this actually completely rebuilds your microbiome because, as I said, by the time you get to 50, you've only got about 4% lactic acid bacteria in there, but you want, if you want to live a long time, to have a lot more than that. The Mediterranean diet will boost your lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, but what helps most is putting all the strains back into you. So that's important. And the last thing I would honestly say is, number one, a cup of coffee is not bad for you if it's a real cup of coffee made properly with a cafetiere or whatever. And number two, drink more water, because they do. Obviously, it's hot, but they do drink water all the time. And number three, yes, drink red wine, because red wine puts up the levels of your bifidobacteria. It's very calming, but don't do it in excess, you know, 1 or 2 glasses at the most. And I watched, as I said, this little old lady on the BBC film, 101 years old. They showed her walking down into town and meeting all her friends, and she said the secret of her success of getting to 101 was 2 fingers of red wine every day. But what I took out of it was she didn't just walk down to the town at 101. She walked back up the hill. She kept moving. She had her 2 fingers of red wine, but she was with her friends, a sense of community, and they were all laughing. They were having a nice meal in the sun, but under an awning. So all those things contribute to the rainbow diet. So this is not about chucking a few colors in a blender. This is a lifestyle. And that's where I want to take people. When people have had cancer, I want them to change their lifestyle. And actually, it doesn't matter if it's not cancer, it's heart disease or dementia or whatever. I want people to try and change their lifestyle. Even in dementia, we're finding that the gut microbiome has gone wrong. So all these things add up to more good bacteria, which make anti-inflammatory molecules. So there's the science of it all, but I'll just keep it simple. What I want out of the rainbow diet, my rainbow diet, is to explain to you that it's a lifestyle. And I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you. If you found this information helpful, useful, please go to one of the links below and watch one of those videos on YouTube. And there, please click the like and subscribe buttons because it gets Cancer Active more awareness in the general community. Please help us. Thank you.